Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Baron and this is your Brain on Books. And in the spirit of Halloween and spooky season, I wanted to gush about my favorite horror novel of all time, and that is It by Stephen King. And at the time of this recording today, this is my absolute favorite book. And I don't mean Stephen King book, just novels in general. I absolutely adore this story, and I never thought I would read it. This is a massive book. It's a huge tome, and my understanding at the time from the whole pop culture zeitgeist was this was just a gory, jump scare, grotesque, murdering rampage clown story, where he just chases after young children. Why would I want to read 1,200 pages of that? Maybe a quick novella for Halloween or something, but this was an investment. So, a read-along popped up. I knew this is my chance. If I don't jump in right now and read this book, I never will. So I'm going to give it the 100-page test. To kind of expand on my story with this book, the copy you see behind me was gifted to me by my aunt. And she's a longtime Stephen King collector, and she bought that thing brand new in 1986 when it came out and gifted it to me. I mean, that's an original first printing. Those things are worth a few bucks, and obviously as a Dark Tower fan and a Stephen King fan, I was ecstatic to add it to my collection. But I also, once again, I thought, I'm probably not going to read this thing, but it's pretty cool to have it. So, getting back to this read-along I jumped in, I had this kind of assumption of what this novel was, and there is spooky stuff, there's scary stuff, there's disturbing stuff, there's disgusting stuff. But more than any of that, this is a beautiful story about friendship. This is a coming-of-age tale. This is the history of a town and how it deals with the supernatural, and it does what Stephen King does best. People know him for his character work, and he is a phenomenal character writer. But in my opinion, it's not so much in the isolated character sense. I think he does towns well. He does communities. He does groups. I'm talking about books like Wizard and Glass and Under the Dome and Needful Things and even The Stand, to where he takes this large cast, that you're invested with over these massive novels and really fleshes out each one's backstory to where they just feel so real. You feel like you know these people. And I feel like it is the best example of that, because not only do you feel like you know these people from his just general amazing character work, but they also just make sense. They feel like people you have met before, especially because this is a coming-of-age tale. You're dealing with children, and Stephen King just writes kids so well to where it's like, when I was a kid, I felt like I would have been with this group. Like, I would have fit in with these guys. I would have loved these guys. These would have been my friends. I think a lot of people have that kind of same feeling, and that's why they fall in love with this novel. So, what is it actually about? Now, most people have this kind of rough understanding because they at least know what Pennywise is. I mean, there's Funko Pops and, every Halloween store's got costumes and it's kind of everywhere. It's hard to ignore. Well, what the actual story is you have this group that I mentioned before, the Losers Club. Now, they have all grown up. They've left their childhood home. They're working professionals, most of which are quite successful. However, one in the group named Mike remained in the town. Now, he became kind of a curator and a librarian of the town's history, and this town being Derry, Maine. And he calls them all back and reminds them of this pact that they made 27 years ago, that if this supernatural entity that we understand as Pennywise ever returns, they will come back to the town and help him defeat him and flush him out once again. So, our characters have no memory of this. They don't remember their experience with Derry. They don't really remember their childhood. However, they understand the importance and they understand the sense of urgency. And they all drop what they're doing and they head back to the town of Derry. Now, once they arrive there and they regroup, they're kind of struck with all the memories from when they were a kid. And you're getting these flashback sequences from each one of our characters over this summer vacation they had in the 1950s. And this group's interaction with Pennywise and how they fought off this crazy clown that actually is a shapeshifter that represents each one of their fears. And that's what makes this book scary. It's not, I mean, yeah, clowns are creepy, don't get me wrong, like kind of freaky things, but he can shift into anyone's fears. I mean, you're afraid of snakes, Pennywise will throw snakes at you. I mean, it doesn't matter what it is, and that's what's really scary about this. So yeah, but aside from the scary element, like I said, you're just following this group of kids and just kind of the way that they interact with each other, riding bikes around, and they go down to kind of the creek and they build forts, and they don't really know what they're doing, and they smoke cigarettes when they're not supposed to, and just kind of like discover themselves. And it's really kind of cool to read, you know, because these kids are on the fringe, you know, they're not the popular group, as you can tell by the Losers Club, obviously. And they have certain traits that I feel like most people identify with, whether it be one or multiples or kind of the entire group. And I certainly do. Absolutely. I felt like when I was a kid, I would have fit right in with these guys. So, and aside from the two timelines you're having in this book from, you know, their adults and this coming of age tale, you also have these interludes. And these interludes are quite long, to be honest. But they're awesome, and they show this like kind of deep history of the town of Derry that once again just makes it feel so real, like you know this place. And the cool part is this is a real place. You know, it's a fictional name for a town, but it's really Bangor, Maine, which is where Stephen King lives. I mean, he based this thing, you know, to the T off of Bangor. The library in Derry is the library in Bangor, to the, you know, to the actual sewer system, to the Paul Bunyan statue, and everything in between. It's a 1-to-1 match. They actually have full-on tours you can do in Bangor and go around in these tour buses and see all the sights from it. And you see a lot of it in the recent films too. So it's kind of a cool thing to add in there. But anyway, so the narrative structure is quite interesting, but it's, like I said, it's just a beautiful story about friendship. And despite all the suspense elements, which can get quite intense at times, you know, you try to rush through the novel, whenever I close it, I just never want to leave. I just immediately want to go back with these group of people in this town, because once again, it just feels so real to me. I've never read another book to where I feel like I know these people. Like, I just feel like I actually know these people. And I've heard people say that about other books before, and I just kind of think they're just kind of full of shit. But not until I read this. I get it now. And I urge you to pick it up. I hope you have a similar experience to me. And, you know, if you've read this book, let me know your thoughts below. I know not most Stephen King fans like this book. I've heard people say it's kind of middle of the road. I think it's a little crazy, and, you know, but, you know, it's a subjective thing. So if you hung in here till the end, thanks for watching. Thanks for letting me just gush about this book, which I love so much. And until next time, see ya.